And welcome to episode 3 of the Red Mountain Express, a podcast made in Birmingham. I'm Blake Westbrook, and joining me as always is Matthew Joyner. Hey, Matthew, how you doing, bud?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
I'm doing good. How was your 4th of July?
It was extremely lazy and extremely quiet, with the exception of a few fireworks here and there in the neighborhood. We worked Monday, and then the wife and I came home Monday night, went to bed, woke up, just kind of hung around the house Tuesday. Didn't really do a whole lot. I did a little bit of yard work between rain showers and grilled a little bit. Then we kind of went to bed and got ready for Wednesday. I mean, it was pretty low key.
We have the same thing going on at our house, and we have a little one. We did try to go and picnic, but we got kind of caught in the rain, and so we decided to not do that. But we watched fireworks on TV. We got the little girl back to bed pretty early, and we're just kind of lazy as well, which I enjoyed. There was nothing wrong with my 4th of July whatsoever. So we have an excellent show for everyone today. We're going to be joined a little bit later by David Fleming. David is the president and CEO of Rev Birmingham. We're going to talk to him about the great work they're doing to revitalize the city of Birmingham. But first, Matt, let's kind of talk about a few items we wanted to highlight. The first one is this new proposed 20th Street pedestrian area. I guess that's what you want to call it. And basically what this is going to be is they're going to close off 20th Street from Lynn Park all the way down to 2nd Avenue South, and it's just going to be a walking area. Is that right?
Yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. A walking area with some businesses up and down it. I think they're going to give the buses, the Magic City connector, free access there on 20th Street, but it would be closed off to any civilian vehicle traffic.
I was downtown this morning, and I kind of saw where it's going to start, or where one end of it is the 2nd Avenue South, and then went all the way to Lynn Park. Yeah, it's 0.7 miles. It's a little long, I think.
Yeah, that's a really long area.
I've been to the one in Denver. I think it's the 16th Street Mall. Now, it's longer, but I think that they've extended it a few times. It's a great area. There's a bunch of shops, retail locations. That is the only drawback I have when it comes to this one, is that there are some restaurants located along that path, but there's not much retail. There's just kind of there's businesses as well, but it's just some restaurants and no retail.
I don't know. So, I lived in Louisville for a couple of years, and there in Louisville on 4th Street, you have what they call 4th Street Live, which is about, I want to say, 2 blocks closed off, dedicated just for pedestrian area, and it has like a Hard Rock Cafe and a bowling alley, and I think a music venue or two are there. It's a nice little area. It's great. If you're looking for something to do on Friday night, you can go and park around it and walk in there. And there's a lot of little options to hang out and do and see. They have concerts back there sometimes. And so I think for something like this, when I hear the proposal and see where they're talking about doing it, like, I can see the potential. I see a lot of cool things you could do with that. I think the distance for Birmingham right now is way too big. If this was 2 or 3 blocks we were talking about, because you've got restaurants in there. You've got like Brick and Tin, Bistro 218, Trattoria Central, Paramount Bar, Cafe DuPont. You've got some other stuff close by. I think you've got Collins Bar pretty close, and El Barrio. So you could take an area in that proposed 7th Avenue North to 2nd Avenue South, pick 2 or 3 blocks there that are close to a couple of those businesses, and shut that down on a weekend night from 7 p.m. on Friday night to, 6 o'clock in the morning on Sunday morning. But to shut this area down, this 0.7 miles of 20th Street forever, and only have it open to bus traffic, I don't know. I think that's asking a lot for what we have. Maybe they're going for the if you build it, they will come model. But that presents a lot of issues, especially for people that work right there every day of the week.
Well, we've seen that model work before. I know that with Railroad Park, there was nothing around that area, and now you're starting to really see businesses, thrive in that area.
Yeah, a lot of little restaurants, and you've got the whole apartment complex and area right there around the baseball field in the park. Right.
I will say this: I like the idea. I think it's a really good idea. I think it's too long. But the one thing that concerns me is that I don't see a ton of foot traffic in that area right now. And I know we just talked about if you build it, they will come, but I would like to see this done in somewhere like Avondale where you see a bunch of foot traffic. I think that would be a great place to do it. I'm not sure how much that road is used as through traffic, but I know that 20th Street is used a ton for through traffic, especially people going from the west side of the city to the east side of the city. So that's kind of a story we're going to keep our eye on, and something we're going to update a little bit later. Like I said, I like the idea. I'm just not sure if it can work being that big.
Well, and it's still, as far as we know, in the early stages of being a proposal. So this may not ever come to fruition. This may be one of our politicians' ideas to garner some attention for themselves here coming up towards the election. And it may disappear after the election. So, we don't know. We'll, like you said, we'll take a look at it, keep our eyes on it, and if something else develops, we'll let you know.
The second story we wanted to highlight today was a story we saw in the Birmingham Business Journal. This had to do with Vineyard Brands, a wine company, moving their headquarters to downtown Birmingham. They've already done it. They're actually downtown at the 2 North 20th.
That's right. Yeah.
And for those that don't know, that's the sign. That's the building with a big sign on the top of it now.
The old Pepsi sign.
Right, and now it's something else.
LPT, Building the Future.
Yeah,
not sure what that is yet.
That's kind of a big stink going on in downtown Birmingham as well. But I think this is a good story. I mean, they're moving their entire operations down there, taking up a big space. They're the 35th largest privately held company in Birmingham. Is that right?
Yeah, ranked by Business Journal's 35th on the most recent Birmingham 100 list of the area's largest privately held companies.
This is a really good story. You're seeing that folks are more interested in the downtown area, moving their operations down there. They see downtown as more of a central location that's positive for their employees. Matthew, what did you think about this?
Yeah, no, I think it's good. They've got 23 employees according to this article, so I think you have a business moving to downtown Birmingham, bringing those 23 employees that will be buying lunch here. They'll be, doing things after work, at bars or at entertainment venues.
Taking a walk down the 20th Street pedestrian mall.
The proposed 20th Street pedestrian mall. Also, maybe looking to move their commute to work a little bit closer and, looking at getting an apartment or a loft there in the Birmingham area. Overall, I think people, being in Birmingham more often, spending money in Birmingham more often, like that's a win for Birmingham. Even if it's not a company moving out or moving in from further out, like, from California, New York, or, wherever, even if it's a local company moving their offices, that's still a win for Birmingham. The more people spending money down here more often, the more money we have in our budget to improve things in Birmingham.
Yeah, and I know that's always a concern that you see, companies moving from one area of Birmingham to another area, and you're not seeing growth at the overall metro area. But having said that, I think it's a positive thing that people are taking more interest in the downtown area. And we're going to talk to David Fleming in a little bit about, how do you sell Birmingham and bringing more folks to the downtown area. But let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be joined by David. But we want to take a minute to recognize one of our podcast partners, Beechwood Woodworks. Beechwood Woodworks is a locally owned and operated wood shop in Birmingham, Alabama, specializing in custom furniture and small home goods. Chris and K&M Beecham create a wide variety of unique pieces of all sizes, ranging from cutting boards to farmhouse tables. Using wood sourced from Alabama sawmills, Beecham Woodworks creates affordable quality pieces that will be a one-of-a-kind fixture for your home. So support your local woodworker and visit redmountainexpress.com/woodworks or check them out on their Facebook and Instagram accounts. Beecham Woodworks, turning your house into a home. And welcome back to the Red Mountain Express. One of the key players in the revitalization of Birmingham has been Rev Birmingham. So joining us today at Rev Birmingham is their president and CEO, Mr. David Fleming. Thank you for joining us today.
Oh, pleased to be with you.
David, if you don't mind, start out by telling us kind of the history of Rev Birmingham and its basic mission.
Sure. Rev Birmingham is a nonprofit organization. So we are an organization with a mission. And our mission is to create vibrant commercial districts in the city of Birmingham by filling vacant spaces and growing sustainable businesses. And we actually have a long history. Technically, we are really kind of a new old organization. We were created 5 years ago as Rev Birmingham through the merger of two other organizations. One was Operation New Birmingham, and the other was Main Street Birmingham. And Operation New Birmingham, many people may remember it as an organization that really goes all the way back to 1957. And it's an organization focused on and created to really focus on downtown and strength and vibrancy in the downtown area and reposition the city, downtown, for, modernity. But then we also had Main Street Birmingham, which was created in 2004 to focus on more of the non-downtown neighborhood commercial cores. So really we combine together because we are really together. We are, the city's sort of place-based and place-focused economic development organization. And that's one of our distinguishes. Place is very important. We like to say that the vibrancy of place is key. So we don't just look at business recruitment retention. We also look at the physical form, transportation issues, all those sort of things that make a place vibrant in a traditional classic urban sense.
So talk to me about the process that Rev Birmingham takes when they look at a place like Avondale or 5 Points or certain areas that need to be revitalized, that you have empty spaces that I know y'all try to fill. What do y'all do? How do y'all do that? How do you start by saying, this is a place that needs to be revitalized, and this is how we're going to start?
Well, we are, I think the first, place to start is with our partners that fund us and what is their interest. So, of course, the city of Birmingham itself has been a major funding partner of ours. They are strategically interested in the revitalization of these places as well. And so we're always working with Mayor Bell and with the council and the economic development leader there at the city, Lisa Cooper, on and in the community development department on what are the places that we really need to have strategic priority about. And so that's one area. But we also need to look at our private sector partners, and they recognize that there are market forces that really lend to the potential for success of some kind. So we try to look at what are the public sector goals as well as private sector and market realities, and where can there be opportunity to really grow the city. So we as an organization tend to focus in sort of three areas, and one is what we call district vibrancy, and that sort of gets to that choosing or picking these places, these commercial cores of either downtown or neighborhoods that have the makings for us to be able to be successful. If we can come in and help those places be successful, then we help them vision for that. We try to build stakeholder groups and come up with what is the long-term plan, because urban revitalization is not a short-term game. We have seen a lot of short-term success here within the last 5 years in our city in ways that are just in some ways mind-blowing, compared to the trajectory over the last, say, 40 years or so. But really all of it's a long-term thing. So the district vibrancy piece is one piece, but then just working on catalytic projects, and we can talk more about that in a minute, and then also talking on about just business growth, helping to support businesses and entrepreneurship, which is critical, especially in urban communities, is to sort of help grow businesses from within.
I think for people that are non-residents of Birmingham, that don't live in the actual downtown city center, there are a lot of things that they may not realize that Rev Birmingham has evolved in. I think a lot of people have seen things like the Zip Bike Share or the Birmingham Lights Project. Mm-hmm. But can you speak to any of the projects that Rev Birmingham has been involved in that people might not know about or recognize as easily?
Sure. Well, and you name a couple of fairly high-profile projects, and the reason why we got tied to those, for example, like implementing bike share in the city, is because we really wanted to, after our the merger 5 years ago, be an organization that certainly respected having good plans, but wanted to be the agency of action. So what are those things that need doing that our agency needed to step up and provide some leadership on and to actually implement? Because we have a long history in our city of having some great plans that, and it's not unique to Birmingham, but, plans need somebody to implement them. So bike share is one of those things. The Birmingham Lights, lights under the underpasses there, mm-hmm. That was another example of something we saw a way to get done, and stepped up to try to help build the partnerships to do them. But almost, a lot of the downtown development projects that have been happening, we probably play some role, either major or minor, in some way, and trying to help support those. Every project usually has some issue or need, and we're all about trying to help people solve problems so that we get the project done, right? So if there's some way we can come in almost like a nonprofit consultant,
right.
to help these projects get over whatever they may be, whether there's something as small as a landscape issue to as big as parking, or solving some other major issue, incentives or something like that, helping work with the city and navigating those things. So a lot of the projects we've had a hand in some way, but we don't. The good news about downtown right now is a lot more interest than there used to be. And I almost hate to date myself, but I've now been working in this arena almost 20 years, really right at 20 years. And there was a time when nobody really believed in downtown Birmingham and the city as a whole. And thankfully that attitude has changed a lot. And so thankfully there's less need for us to be involved in every little thing, but we can now try to be more strategic about what we get involved in.
When you first started working with Rev Birmingham or the previous organizations that were that make up Rev Birmingham, when downtown wasn't as popular to move down to, how did you sell downtown? How did you sell the city of Birmingham to businesses, saying like, this would be a great place for us to invest in?
So before, you're saying?
Yeah, before, not now, because everybody wants to be downtown now. It seems like you've seen so much revitalization.
There's still some people that need convincing, but
yeah, absolutely.
I think that what we had to do before was try to overcome their negatives. That people would have a feeling that there was crime downtown, or that there was higher taxes, or parking was expensive, or something like that. So you always had to try to sell the idea that, hey, there's great history, heritage, there's great atmosphere, there's also, frankly, cool buildings. It's something that you can't get everywhere else, which frankly is an easier sell today than it was 20 years ago, because people were like the idea of historic character, but it was made less business sense. Now you got a lot of businesses that that's what they want. That's the kind of character they want. They want to be in an old building, and they want to be there largely because they want to attract the kind of workforce that they want to attract, and that's what the workforce wants. But back a few years ago, we really had to just sort of promote the value of downtown, and there are a lot of misperceptions that have always existed, like the level of crime was relatively low, but we had to do things to address that. We had to frankly it's always been a large employment center, and a lot of people think everybody's left downtown. Well, a lot of the shops and retail did, because frankly that happened across the country. Retailing just changed. It became a suburban thing, but it's always been the highest level of employment in terms of employment concentration in the metro area has always been in the downtown, and that's never changed. So trying to address those misperceptions is part of it.
Back in February of this year, Forbes.com released a list of the 25 fastest growing cities in America. Now, on that list, there were a good percentage of those cities that were southern cities, in Florida and Tennessee, and Atlanta. Of course, Atlanta was on there. What do you think, in comparison to Birmingham, makes a place like Murfreesboro, Tennessee, or Nashville or Atlanta so much more apt to growth and sustained growth in comparison to Birmingham? And do you think that maybe it's an issue with our government structure, or an issue with the workforce, or jobs availability?
Well, I think questions like that do lend to a lot of needing to really dive into the history, which we don't have time to do. But sure. I think I would point out that Birmingham, the way it grew so fast, it was a boom town 100 years ago, and a lot of cities had their sort of boomtown phase, right? Well, the reality is Atlanta got theirs after World War II, and some of these others are experiencing their boomtown phase. And because our boomtown came when it did, and along with our challenges of a lot of the business, major business employers, the industrial side of the house, were largely decisions and companies that were outside this region but were here located and benefiting from there, TCI, U.S. Steel, all that. We ended up with a community that had to transition, from that old industrial economy. And if you look at almost any city that was based on industrial economy at the same level Birmingham was, almost everybody post World War II, really in the last 20, 30 years, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, you just go down the list, everybody who's a city like that had, slowed down compared to like other cities, because the economy is just sort of had to take some time to change and adjust. And Birmingham certainly has been one of those. Whereas our growth rate may be behind some other areas, I think there's a good solid reason for that, and that our transition, our economic transition, has needed to work itself out, and I think that it is doing that. I think we're seeing signs that we still got some challenges in job growth and that kind of thing. But I do think that we're seeing that there is a lot of assets that we have in place that are going to position us for growth in sort of a new economy going forward.
Sure. And can you speak to that at all? So what does that look like? Is that more tech sector jobs coming into the area or something else?
Sure. We certainly are going to continue to see healthcare jobs expand, and I think we're going to be able to see some of the other service sector jobs. We were great at engineering and construction, and I think there's always going to be a need for that. We're definitely, though, growing in our opportunity in the IT and innovation section, especially around advanced manufacturing and digital technologies and life science technologies. Those things are real niche areas for us that we have assets. Southern Research Institute, we have UAB. And frankly, we've got, a city leadership. The mayor's really good at selling the city. He is really excellent at that, and so he, is doing that. So those assets are, I think, things that bode well for us. But that said, it kind of goes back to the city itself and the fact that we are a city that our downtown is manageable in terms of size, access to it is good. Our urban core is a thing that we can really use to our advantage, because, again, going back to when you want to, in today's world, attract talent and you want to attract business that wants the kind of talent that they want, your city has to sell itself. It's not now just about, hey, can you put together the right piece of property for me or in the right amount of incentives. The city has to be cool, and our city is really repositioning itself that way. And I think it's surprising a lot of people. There's a reason why I think we're getting a lot of accolades now. Certainly, BBA and others are really pushing those stories out, but when people will sniff it out if it's not for real, and people are coming and they're seeing Birmingham and they're saying, man, this place really is not what I thought, and they're talking about it out in the country.
So would you say that, I know that Birmingham is seeing sort of a renaissance in the last 5 to 6 years, but I think that a lot of people will agree that Birmingham has had a lot of false starts. Do you think there's something different about what's going on right now in downtown Birmingham or in the Birmingham area, or do you think that this is the real deal? We're starting to see something that's really going to start to expand Birmingham's population size, its business size, and just its overall stance in the southern United States.
Mm-hmm. Well, before I answer that, I want to drill down on something that's related to that, and it'll lead into that. And one of those things is I think that beyond our opportunities to build companies that are about technology growth and all that stuff, I think that gets to an area that is a real niche for Rev and then for some others, and that is growing those small businesses that really make the city cool. If you're going to have a cool city, you got to have the cool restaurants, and you got to have the breweries, and you got to have the services and the art galleries and all that other kind of stuff. And those are the kinds of businesses that we, along with our partners like the city and Create Birmingham, and really try to grow and promote and do that in a number of ways. So I think but that area is where we have a great opportunity around entrepreneurship, particularly for minority businesses, which is going to be critical for the growth of Birmingham. We've got to let this growth that could happen be something that is available to all, and without having intentionality towards that, then I think that there's a real problem. But that just adds more to the story. I mean, I think that the more that we can grow minority businesses, minority entrepreneurs, we grow more jobs, and we do all that from within. And to the sense of the false start question, I think that in the past, I've been around long enough now that there have been lots of folks that have trumpeted, "Hey, Birmingham's coming back," and then it sort of felt like it was a little maybe premature to say that, and then we had some teetering and all that. But there is something that feels very different about where we are right now. I think that we're benefiting from a general mood across the country for more of an urban revival, and so I think that interest is definitely here in Birmingham, and I think that bodes well. It's not just a niche thing anymore; it's a real thing. But I also think that with things like the historic tax credits that the state created, and now we've got back coming back, and other things, that there are tools that are helping people actually make investments in places where they would have been a little scared to make them before if they didn't have that extra help. And so I think that momentum is definitely moving in a positive direction. It just feels like the attitude's so different. And I think you go back to getting Railroad Park done, Barron's moving back downtown. All of a sudden, you had 600,000 people a year coming downtown to games that weren't coming before. I mean, when people start enjoying the city and they're like, "Oh yeah, this is the kind of place I want to be." So the attitude is definitely different. And I think that the fundamentals are definitely there. I mean, we see a lot more people not only moving downtown to live, but the business interest is much stronger.
And so, what are some of the challenges that Rev Birmingham has faced in this revitalization as things are starting to improve, and you see an actual change that you feel like is different than it's been in the past, trying to keep these things going and trying to keep that positive momentum up?
Well, I think one clear area is one of the reasons why we merged the organizations that used to exist was to have one organization that sort of had the whole downtown, which means really the whole city, in view, neighborhoods and downtown. And so one of the challenges is a sense of equitable opportunity and equitable growth. I mean, a lot of neighborhoods that want to see the good stuff come their way too. And so we have to try to help position certain neighborhoods to sort of benefit from that, and I think that's that's definitely a real challenge for Rev's work. Is that we aren't just working downtown; we're working in Inslee, we're working in Avondale, and working in Woodlawn, and a lot of other communities, and they're not all in the same place. They're at different levels but they all have. I love all of those communities for different reasons. I see different things about those communities, that are, great, and reasons why they shouldn't be, left behind when it comes to that. So that is definitely a challenge. How do we make sure that the growth, even though there may be different market opportunities in different places at different times, how do we make sure that there's opportunity that everybody gets to benefit some from growth? So that's a big challenge, but there's, I would be remiss as a nonprofit exec to say there's always funding challenges.
Sure.
More money equals more mission, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that we're always needing to find tools to enable, us to be successful in our mission. We are in a time period where there's so much change that's about to happen that we don't even realize. And let's just talk about, like the whole automated car debate. I mean, our autonomous vehicles, I think they are going to change the way we do things, and, how we, need to park cars downtown, all that other kind of stuff. I mean, parking is always a challenge. Transportation is always a challenge. How we get around our cities, and getting our thinking forward, and thinking about what is the future infrastructure of the city needs to look like, not the infrastructure that we needed 30 years ago, and trying to get everybody thinking about that kind of infrastructure investment in a way that's forward thinking. And you see signs of it in Birmingham. I mean, there's some real leadership from our city right now, things like bus rapid transit and the new intermodal centers that are opening up and things like that. So, I think we can keep pushing the envelope there.
David, can you give us an idea of what's next in the pipeline for Rev Birmingham?
Well, Rev, when 5 years ago when we were created, Birmingham looked one way, now it looks very different. And so we are thinking through and planning for how Rev really needs to be impacting the city going forward. There are a few specific things, in our business growth area. We have recently created, for example, an accelerator around, food entrepreneurship. And in the Pizzitz Food Hall, a lot of people know we have Reveal Kitchen, which is a place for businesses who have an idea of wanting to, start one of those new restaurants. It's hard to start up a restaurant, and you kind of need to try it out. And so the idea of Reveal Kitchen is every 6 months we're going to be having a different entrepreneur coming through there. So we're about to have a new one start up soon. Kim Brock is going to start with her Biddy's Living Kitchen concept in August, and so that's a new one. But we are going to every 6 months have somebody else coming in there. So the idea of creating these kinds of accelerator type opportunities for business is something that we're trying to develop a lot of opportunity for. Around catalytic development, we are working and partnering with some people to try to really get some buildings that are probably been problem buildings for a long time in certain areas. Kind of partner with them and say, how can we get a hold of those buildings and really reposition them for redevelopment? So that allows us to push the boundaries out a little bit more as downtown grows. There was always this idea that downtown was maybe 17th or 16th Street on one end and 24th Street on the other. That was basically the boundary of downtown, but we've got to keep pushing it out. I think there's opportunity to push it out, even further physically, but we have to be able to target certain specific properties that may be holding back the market in those areas. And so how, can we, and we've done a little bit of that in areas before, like Woodlawn, where we actually own and develop some properties and put some new businesses in them. And so we've got more of those that we're looking at opportunities for. But I think there's, just around the district, vibrancy piece. We are refining the way we work with communities to get specific outcomes. And short-term projects that help communities like a 5 Points West or an Ensley or a Woodlawn say, what's next? What's the next thing we need to do and be proud of so we can move on to the next thing and be very specific about those projects. And there's some exciting things in the pipeline there, which I can't really reveal all at this point. Right. But there's, I think, some specific things that you might see as some great things, something that Woodlawn wants to do, or 5 Points West, or those communities. And so that's sort of how Rev's trying to position itself moving forward.
So to kind of wrap this up, I have a two-part question. First, if our listeners are more interested in finding out about Rev Birmingham, where can they find out more about Rev Birmingham? And second, what are some ways in which they can get involved with Rev Birmingham, or even as individuals, what can people do to help encourage and progress this positive growth in Birmingham right now?
Well, how do people get involved? First of all, I think it's becoming a believer, believing that Birmingham has got a lot of potential and unrealized potential, and we actually can realize it. So I think that's the first thing we need out of people. We need more believers. And I think that people can, begin to make decisions around either their business, where do I want to locate my business? Where do I want to be, or where do I need to be in a way that contributes to this vibrancy? So I think that kind of those kinds of decisions are important. We do have some ways people can plug in. If there's a particular interest in a particular community or area of the city, physically, we'd love to find ways to plug them into, say, Woodlawn, or into, activities in Avondale, or in the downtown, or around Innovation Depot, those kinds of areas. I think they just need to kind of engage with us, and we can see we sometimes have opportunities to provide feedback going out there. Like right now, the 5 Point South community and the alliance there that we work with is really trying to reposition 5 Point South and getting a lot of their surveys out, and they're trying to get a lot of community feedback on that. So I think that's just talking, giving us ideas. I mean, we always like to say we're not necessarily the ones that always come up with the good ideas, but we do like to find, if there's a good one, if we can find a way to get it done, we want to come up alongside it. So yeah. We don't take credit for all the great ideas, believe me. We just, in fact, most of the great ideas probably come from somewhere else. We just try to figure out how to do them.
Sure. And so if people have those good ideas, what's the best way to contact Rev Birmingham?
Well, they can call me or email me, and I can try to connect them with the part of the organization that can help the most or connect with them the most. We do have a website, revbirmingham.org, and of course, if you're not getting our email, we try to send out an email every week about different things that people may not know about that are going on, and so get on the email list.
David, thank you so much for joining us today. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you for being with me. I appreciate it. This is fun.
Well, that's going to do it for us here on this edition of the Red Mountain Express. Again, we'd like to thank our guest, David Fleming of Rev Birmingham, for taking time to talk with us. Remember to subscribe to us on iTunes or your favorite podcast app, and please just take a minute and rate our show and review us on the iTunes page. For Matthew Joyner, I am Blake Westbrook. This has been the Red Mountain Express, and we'll see you next week.